Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, former Ottawa Senator Jason York, and Sean Simpson.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Wally.
How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Jason York. I don't know what we're getting off to a slow start here.
I'm jolly. I'm jolly today, Wally. I'm jolly.
Did you get a good sleep?
I've been thinking about you all day. Good, all good thoughts. All good thoughts. I can't. I can't get this song out of my mind.
Madonna.
Holiday.
We can't hear this, Yorkie. You should have come to rehearsal. We didn't hear this.
That might be the next phase of Wally Vision, is actually having music in the background, eh? Each player, eh? Yeah. Maybe Zub, a little something Russian, eh? Hey, maybe rah Rasputin.
Yeah, get him on there. We had a guy when I was playing in the minors summer. Can't believe we're getting the story time already. When the Russians when the Russians were coming over, one of the guys on the team would get in the middle of the dressing room and he'd start doing the Russian dance. And he bought himself a big fur hat. And he got in the middle of the dressing room, and you know when you cross the arms and you get down and you start kicking the legs out. And it was
that's pretty good. If you could pull that off, that's pure athleticism right there. Eh?
The old rah. The whole team would start clapping and start cheering. Oh gosh.
Wally's already looking perplexed.
You had to be there, Wally. You had to be there. It would have been fun. You would Wally. You would have been clapping and singing too. Those were good times in the minors.
I'm just wondering how we I was excited to start the show. We got lots to talk about. So Josh Norris is back. That now seems like it's second fiddle to you.
Well, we all knew he was coming back. The only guy that was all hot and bothered was you.
That's not true at all. I just speak for the people. We wanted to see Josh Norris in the lineup. So before we get to talking about Josh and where he'll play and the line mates he's going to be, because he actually said in the clip, here is Josh Norris post-practice today.
Yeah, it's been good. Put a lot of work in and just patient with the process and knowing what I need to do to be ready to play. And I'm at that point now. So anytime you can get into your game lineup and know you're playing that night, it's a different feeling for sure. So yeah, excited to play with DP and Gregor and see what we can do.
Preseason or not, you're playing in a pretty good venue, right?
Yeah, always a good time playing there. So yeah, we'll be excited for the game.
Coming back from this kind of injury, is it always a matter of confidence, being able to do what you want to do on the ice, not being too careful, but being comfortable with what you can do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to look past it. I'm healthy and I'm ready to play, so I feel good and yeah, it's been a long road, so I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, he'll probably play anywhere between, my guess is 17 to 21 minutes, something like that. But we've been trying to run 4 lines through camp just to see what everyone has. But obviously, there are certain, times in the game that some guys play more.
You kept saying that there was a plan. Is this the plan to get him in tonight to the game?
Yeah, we knew that he was going to play one of these 2 games, the last 2, and he's in tonight. So I know he's excited to get going, and we're excited to see him.
It's just good to see him come a long way and obviously taking his time throughout training camp on getting some contact back, and obviously seeing him in the lineup tonight, I think we're all happy for him, and I think he's even happier to finally get out there and start heading to a nice and healthy season this year.
The plan. It all comes together just like the 18 show.
Yeah, not
just
only
like
the plan
I told you, just like I told you yesterday.
Is coach aware that there's 3 games left? No, I don't want to be critiquing him.
We're gonna
Hey?
simmer. We're gonna have to start, like, if we start doing shows on the road, we'll have to do, like, Wally's gonna get so anxious when we fly, and like we'll have to do what they did with B.A. Baracus, like knock him out with a little tranquilizer or something.
Are we talking about the A team now? Is that what they do? Hey,
It's the A team.
Love the 18.
oh, that's solid right
Ace
there.
and Hannibal.
Where is Mr. T these days? But hey, for Josh Norris, guys, I'm not going to say anything negative, but unfortunately, and you know this better than anybody, Yorkie, I've seen so many players practice hard and come back and do things, but there's nothing like going into an actual game. You're going to reach along the boards. You're going to do something a little bit different. Maybe you're on the power play and the old jack guy's coming up and giving you a couple of cross checks. So I'm sure everyone's nervous. I'm sure Josh Norris is nervous, Yorkie. And hey, you just wishing him the best. But this is going to take a game or 10 or 20 for everybody to, I think, mentally get over and be confident that he's good to go.
Yeah, it's there's nothing like real game action, because you can go hard in practice. You can, like, I remember coming back from I had my shoulder done, not to the extent that Josh did. And you go along the boards and guys are hitting you and you're getting roughed up, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And nobody on your team wants to hurt you in practice. So the thing in practice, you're never going to get caught with an unexpected hit, because when you do things in practice, everything's in front of you, versus in a game where you might not see somebody. Or poor Josh. I still get going back to that one injury, Wally, like running into the net. Like, what are the chances of that happening? And the stiffest part of the back of the net. So those are just scenarios that don't happen in practice. In saying that, though, fellas, I got one of my most horrific injuries in practice. Speaking of Russian players, Simmer, do you remember Denis Arkhipov?
Oh, absolutely. He was a monster. Hey,
but no heartbeat. This clown.
No. But he was a monster guy.
We're doing. Oh yeah, terrible. Like, just good, great player. But we're doing a 2-on-2 crossing drill. He has his head down. The drill's over. I step up to poke the puck away. His helmet runs right into the side of my head, and I get thrown on the ice, knocked out, break my cheekbone, orbital bone, jaw, everything. But so you can get hurt in practice. It's just, nowadays it's very, very rare.
Wow. In Philadelphia, Sean Couturier, didn't he get taken out by the big defenseman?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
who was now in Anaheim? Anyway, there's some freak accidents that happen in practice without question.
Yeah, but anyways, once he gets into the flow of the game, though, he's not going to be
nervous. Before I forget, sorry.
Okay, yeah, and to that, Yorkie, I'll lean on you a little bit, and I'm not even having fun. But when I see this fella golf, I have to think that if you can hit the ball the way that he does, and I was just mentioning Wally before the show as far as the one-timer and everything else, but there can't be many bigger tests. Like, I don't think you're out playing golf and just wailing on the golf ball unless the shoulder's feeling pretty good. Am I right?
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's more of just when you're in compromised positions, right? When you're reaching, or when that's why a lot of times on faceoffs, because you're down and you're in a hunched over position, and it's the unexpected things like running into the net. So I just think once he gets playing and adrenaline's going, one thing I do know, fellas, you can't play in the National Hockey League if you're nervous of getting hurt. So I don't foresee that. You just can't, because that's when you do get hurt, when you're thinking about it.
Travis Green said 17 to 21 minutes, depending on power plays and whatever, because right now he's on that top power play unit. And Josh said, you know what, I'm just trying to get my feet wet today, basically. Just want to work out the kinks and the rust. So we'll see how all that plays out. Here's the lineup for tonight's game, as Norris will be in between David Perron and Ridley Gregg. It's a pretty full lineup with a couple of question marks, I'm going to say, in the third and fourth line. Claude Giroux not in the lineup. They called it a maintenance day, although I believe his wife is close to giving birth, so I'm not sure if that's the reason, but we'll see how that goes. And then I'm interested to see the Sanderson Carter Yakimchuk D pairing and how that plays out. Lots of question marks in today's game. Also, Linus Ullmark is going in as a full-time starter. He's expected to play the entire game. And Artem Zub back in the lineup.
Yeah, and a completely different look, Yorkie, when you go through this and plug in a few players, right? I love the idea of Greg popping up on the wing. I think with his speed and forecheck and everything, playmaking, I think it'd be great for Norris. Probably put old DP, as he called him, Mr. Perron, into some shooting situations.
Yeah.
And then just with the Yakimchuk, not the end of the world, because again, there's 2 more games after this. It is interesting to me, though, guys, that he's paired with Sanderson, and all of a sudden you even have a JBD who I think needs more reps and needs to play, but not a big deal. My gut feeling still tells me, guys, that this is going to be his last game and he gets sent back to junior tomorrow. I'm just going on a hunch. This is just a feeling of, hey, end on a high note. But yeah, it won't be awfully fun to watch that tonight to see how he handles the guys Sanderson and how he handles the Montreal lineup.
What's wrong? Well, you look agitated there. What's going on?
Well, so I'm not convinced that they're just sending Yak back right away. He hasn't looked out of place. So I'm with you, Simmer, in the whole junior thing. There's really no place for him. There's no roster spot, except if he's earned it and they got to figure out how to get him in. Like,
Who you sitting?
He's not that far, is what I'm trying to say.
He is and he isn't. The issue is in York, there's a lot of guys will come in as a junior, Wally, and have a great training camp. There's no pressure on you. And we saw Clevin come in a couple of years ago. He was outstanding because there were meaningless games. He finished the year off. So I'm not saying he doesn't, but it is preseason. We'll see how he does tonight. But as you just pointed out as well, like, what would be the theory or purpose? Is he better than Zub? No. Is he better than Jensen? No. Right now for Hamonic paired with Clevin, would you sit out a veteran like Hamonic and dress him with Clevin? No. So like you just said, I appreciate the way he's played, but there's no really theory or logic, or as you just pointed out, and people still have to get their head around on Hamonic's having a hell of a training camp. So, hey, if he played ahead of JBD, but that's your 7th guy. That's all I'm saying is that it wouldn't shock me if they say, listen, here's a final game with Sanderson. You had an awesome camp. Now get your butt back to junior and have a great year.
Okay.
You gotta remember too, Wally, like when, not to take anything away from the player, because he's had a tremendous training camp. He's come in and he's been really, really good. But like that game he played was against the Toronto team. Like that's not really a real game. You're playing against a lineup where a lot of guys were floating on that Toronto team. And again, I don't want to discredit the player.
Well, you are.
The worst. No, I'm just telling you reality, what it's like in an NHL training camp. Guys aren't going 100% on that. We saw the Toronto team was garbage that game. So the worst thing you could do for a young player is rush him into a situation, especially into a role of, you're going to be in our 3rd pairing. You're going to play limited minutes. Coming into this situation, you're a great offensive player. You got great offensive instincts. Probably the weakest part of your game is defending and having to, figure out how to play defense because you've always been an offensive player. So the worst thing to do would be put him into a situation where he's learning on the job at his biggest glaring weaknesses in his game versus going back to junior and refining those elements of that game, playing 30 minutes every night, going to the World Juniors, being a difference maker. Because I'll tell you this, once you lose your confidence, it is really tough. Once self-doubt creeps into your game, that's why first rounders sometimes don't pan out. Self-doubt. Confidence is the biggest, probably most important thing you could have in the NHL as a player, and you got to tread very carefully with young prospects. So you can put him in. Sure, he could probably stay here, but he's going to be just trying to tread water versus go back. They don't need him right now. What's his best asset? Offense. So where is he going to fit in? You're going to put him on the power play over Jake Sanderson, over Thomas Chabot? Like, come on. Like, let's be serious here. He's going back to junior. He's going to have a great year. Don't rush the process. And the reason he's playing, you put him in a situation right now to have all kinds of success. So he goes back to junior with a great taste in his mind and tons of confidence. You play him with Jake Sanderson. So tonight he's going to look really good. Because you play with Sanderson, you're going to feel really good about yourself. So then, like, they've started process 1, great camp, lots of confidence, go back to junior, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want to rush this kid, I'm telling you.
Which is fair because Zub is now back in the lineup, so there's another spot gone, obviously, just in preseason action. I get it, but here, I'm just going to throw it out there, Yorkie, as you're the former D. What if you gave him a game in the National Hockey League? I understand this isn't this is a professional hockey league, and you don't get gifts given to you. I'm just curious your thoughts on giving him an actual NHL game.
I don't mind giving him a couple games because you can go under that 10 game mark, right? I'm not against that for sure. Because like again, if it's the right situation, put him in a situation to succeed, which you don't want, because right now he is on a high. He's feeling good about himself. He's feeling confident. He's going to go back and be the captain, have an awesome year, and then the sky's the limit for this kid. Versus maybe start him here, you put him in a situation he's not quite ready for. I don't know. I don't want to see an offensive defenseman with all these skills put into a position where you got to defend right away. It's just, to me, it's learning on the job. It's not really necessary yet. But especially, like, that's what Docker is going to do. Like, that's what he's here for. That's what Cleven's here for. And don't forget, you've already got Cleven on the blue line, who, like, he's the guy you're giving the opportunity to right now, and to see how things go with him. So why complicate it and add another young guy to the mix?
Yeah, and here's a few other things, guys, on this, and having dealt with player personnel, so I'll take the management angle to it. Okay, Hamonic's had a hell of a training camp. You made the trade for Jensen. Zub is back in the lineup. Who are you going to and saying, listen, we're going to give this 19-year-old, it's not going to be here a couple of games. Then you got to roll back to the veteran player who's already pissed off. Like, why are you wasting the time? And then the other part, guys, there's a very good chance he'll start in Belleville next year. I don't need a kid feeling like, oh, I made the NHL. Now I went back to junior. What the hell am I doing in the American Hockey League? There's just no theory or no place or no, it's just not sensible right now. And if this was a Chicago Blackhawks, guys, okay, I totally understand it. You're a bottom feeder. They're even talking, I believe, about, is it Korchinski is going to play in the American Hockey League this year after playing a full year in the National Hockey League. So, like I said, it's not the right time or place. It's been awesome. I think the fan base realizes this is a hell of a pick. Let's just fast forward to the World Junior, Wally, and we'll see him here in Ottawa.
Fair enough. You're
last thing though too is how vital, like, if we've already talked about this, everybody in the city knows this, the players know it, management knows it. Most important this year is getting off to a good start. So by getting off to a good start, it's by having guys slotted properly where they're supposed to be. What's the biggest thing people have been complaining about this defense for the last little while? Defending.
So we should do a poll. I'm curious what fans.
I'm in charge of the polls. I'll consider what you're saying, but
okay, it's a pollster. Put out a poll right now and said, who would you rather have on your blue line, Yak, Hamonic, or JBD? I'm just curious of what.
It wouldn't even be close. It'd be Yakimchuk all the way. The majority of the fan base still hates Hamonic, and the majority of the fan base doesn't think JBD can play. So that's not it. I like tight polls, and that wouldn't be tight, Wally. Listen, everybody right now is in love with the Yak, so that wouldn't even be a tight one. And we've already decided for today.
That's not a simmer poll right there. And listen, it's like. Do you want to listen to the 20,000 people that are yelling shoot every game? Because that's who you're saying put the fate of this 19-year-old kid in. Shoot.
Well, the only reason I say that is we've watched now. Hamonic's a different player this year, based coming off of injury. I will admit that. JBD is a question mark and continues to be. Although, and so we'll get to JBD in a sec. Here's Travis Green when asked about questions on the blue line, and specifically about what JBD basically has to do.
It's going to be a bit of a battle on the back end for who's going to play and who's not. I don't think that's a secret. And, I've seen a calm player, a steady guy so far, and we'll see how he does the last week here.
Yeah, he's talking about who's going to be the sixth defenseman. Is it going to be Hamonic? Is it going to be Cleven? Is it going to be Jacob Bernard-Docker? It's not. Is it going to be Yakimchuk?
No, I just said this was asked about JBD. This wasn't.
I know, but he's saying that. But he's saying there's a battle for that last spot. Just so people are clear.
I've ruled out the Yakimchuk as a 6D. This today is between basically, is JBD going to make the top six? And I don't feel like he's got that spot. I think it's Hamonic's to lose.
Well, you said that from the beginning of training camp, Wally, and I just totally agree. And the same thing in Yorkie we'll talk about. When it comes to coaching, if it's even close between a veteran player and a guy that's trying to find his way in the league, I'm going with the veteran player. And it's not about a safety net, and it's not about even the lack of trust. It's just showing some respect to a player. Like, I couldn't even imagine going to Hamonic right now after the build-up. Here's a guy that's very familiar with the coach, very familiar with the general manager. You are healthy, and he's backed it up, and he's played very well. To go to him for opening night, even just out of respect, like I said, he is a sixth defenseman. JBD will be your seventh, and hey, his opportunity will come via injury or via other opportunity. And then we keep going back to, we're going to get into the regular season here. What is the best thing for Clevin as he hops into the lineup? What's going to solidify his game? Like, we're focused on, grounding Shabbat, and is it going to be Zuber? Is it going to be Jensen? Well, in the case of Hamonic, I mean, Tyler Clevin in the locker room, the whole build-up to opening night, Yorkie, the comfort level that he would have versus playing with a guy like JBD, who's probably just as nervous as him and unproven at the NHL level.
So here's the difference between, and I 100% agree with you, Simmer. I actually agree with you too, Wally. When you are a veteran defenseman in NHL, you have a mental notebook on all the players in the league who you play against. At least all good defensemen did. You just know from years of playing against each other, this guy's coming down on me. He likes to go wide. This guy, I know he's not. Hamonic just has that benefit of it's called a mental notebook on players in the league, and that's what experience is. So to your point, if a guy like Jacob Bernacher and Clevin, you've got, you got a player that's just finding his way in the league versus a player that's just trying to get established. That would be, to me, if I'm the head coach, based on what I've seen so far, I would be hesitant to put that tandem into situations, especially D-zone face-offs. You'd be a little nervous versus Hamonic, who just, he's going to play simple too. And people forget, when Hamonic struggled, he was put into situations where he was thrust into the top four, and that's not him now. I think he can be a very dependable bottom pairing defenseman and at this point in his career, because he's healthy now. And it's a tough role, but I think his style, if he just keeps it simple, he could thrive and be a nice mentor for Clevin. And you know what, like you said, Bernard Docker, he's going to get his opportunity. There's going to be injuries, and who knows, before it's all said and done, he could have a nice stretch and find his way in the lineup. That's just how it works. It's always a day-by-day thing in the NHL. And I think Bernard Docker's had a nice camp so far, to tell you the truth, boys. He's been good.
Interesting. Not interesting. Just some people forget he led the team in block shots last season.
Yeah.
The only player to average over 2 block shots per game. He does play hard. I don't see enough from him. Maybe we, maybe we just expect more. Maybe we were told we were going.
What do you want to see?
What do you want
to see?
Well, my biggest thing, guys, to see on him is the ability to actually play as a defensive defenseman. I think the hockey IQ is very good. When he has time and space, he makes a very good first pass. What he struggled with, Yorkie, in my estimation in the past, is that he has a hard time winning battles, but more importantly, when he does get puck control, there's a lot of pressure on him. He's not able to create much time or space. So that's really what I'm looking for, because I'll also say from a shot blocking standpoint, and whether you're a penalty killer, your best penalty killer and your best shot blocker is your goaltender. This is going to be a different element, a different level of confidence where, every mistake you make isn't going to be in the back of the net. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm not sure what you're thinking, Wally, but that's just mine at the end of the day. I've just never, I even asked his coach, just privately, I said, are you concerned about his size? I think this was 3 years ago. He's like, no, not at all. I've just never seen enough meat on the bone, I guess, if you want to say it, Wally, to show that he's really a true defensive defenseman in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, it takes time.
And that's
what Jake Sanderson's done just doesn't happen. Guys come in like this. You see defensemen struggle for the first little while. I don't think he's struggling. For me, when he goes into a little bit of a downturn in his game, it's when too late on the stick. I call it a heavy stick. He needs to play with a heavier stick. Like, you watch guys who've been in the league for a while, they play with a heavy stick. That means they go into the corners, the sticks not get lifted, they're not getting stripped of the puck. Their sticks in good position in front of the net, and just limiting the turnover. Just play simple. When you're in the bottom pairing, you don't want to be noticed. You want to be noticed for blocking shots, boxing out, not when you have the puck. It's on the stick, up to the forwards. And you do that, you just make your life a lot easier as a defenseman. Block shots, defend, get rid of the puck as quick as you can. Make a good play. Like, just don't rim it, but just limit the turnovers. And that's the same with Hamonic. Just be dependable, be counted on, earn the trust.
JBD just leaves me wanting more. Maybe that's what it is. He's
Yeah.
like a tweener. Maybe I just want more from him, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure what I'm supposed to get from him. That's all.
Me neither.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm gonna see.
Yeah, and that is a part, and that's why I really, for every year, but especially in the case of Hamonic, but even JBD, it's keeping an open mind. I mean, as you have the maturation process, not that the guy's going to suddenly show up and be 250 pounds, but does he get into his man strength? Is that enough for him? And then I just think the mindset, guys, of you are also talking about, and I don't think there's a better example I've seen in a long time than Gabranson going from Ottawa to Calgary, where you're like, okay, I think this guy's career is probably over. He was insulated and supported properly in Calgary and had a hell of a year and earned himself a great contract with Columbus. The mindset of this group, the accountability, the insulation, I don't think we're going to see nearly as much where a guy is in a spot where he's not supported. And then I'll keep going back to the goaltender, and we can say all we want about Florida and how great their defense is. Listen, the Bob stood on his head. That's the major reason why they won the Stanley Cup. And they make mistakes. And this time for the Ottawa Senators, whether you're a forward or defenseman, Wally, just going to be a nice feeling again. And it wasn't great with Korpisalo, not great with Murray, but you're dealing with a completely different animal. I don't even think just goaltending wise, but mentally and confidence wise, the approach that Ullmark brings to the rink, that's just got to make everybody in front of him feel better.
He's got some swagger, boys. He's got a swagger about him, and that's you feel that as a player, where you just your goalie's got a little bit of that, got some confidence, and he carries himself. He's not cocky. He's good. And he knows he's good, and that's infectious on the rest of the team. It really is. But
They used to get that from they used to get that from Andy. Andy, when he was in the net, they just knew, right?
Yeah,
unless the world came to an end, he was going to be there.
Exactly.
Well, and the other part with Anderson, guys, that I always, again, I think was super underrated. First of all, was the consistency. And I think when he was inconsistent, he struggled I think mentally, he got so tired of watching everything in front of him. But the part that you have to go, and when you look at Andy's career, Wally, going head to head with Carey Price, beat him. Head to head with Lundqvist, beat him. Head to head with Rass, beat him. You know what I mean? You went into any series with some of the top boys, if not the top goaltenders in the National Hockey League, and he was able to win those. That's a mindset you're back into. That, again, obviously as a goaltender, I'm not playing necessarily against the other guy, but it sure feels good when you feel like you have the advantage, or you feel like your Tendy doesn't have any intimidation as far as who he's going up against.
He was the classic underdog, Craig Anderson. Like he loved to be counted out, going against the other guy and taking him down. Like just had that great underdog mentality. Would have been interesting to watch him on a really good team, because then it's different, right? It's a different kind of pressure when you're expected to win versus being the underdog. But he had some years when expectations were low, and that team really, they haven't had let's be honest, they haven't had anybody since him.
Yeah, and also from a D pairing, think outside of Mathot and Carlson, what has there been, Wally? And then I'll go back to, and I mean this so sincerely, and I always use Larry Murphy as the example going from Toronto to Detroit. If you put Craig Anderson on those high possession Detroit teams, he's every bit as good as Chris Osgood ever was. Mike Vernon's a bit of a different animal because of experience, but I have no doubt, to your point, if you had put him on one of those better teams, that he could have won a Stanley Cup. I think of a Corey Crawford with the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, Craig Anderson was right there, if not better. So totally agree with what you're saying.
Michael Leighton, wasn't it? Michael Leighton took the Philadelphia Flyers to the Cup final against Antti Ranta in Chicago.
I actually think it takes a certain mindset, though, with a goaltender, Simmer, when you're favored to win, because it's a totally different pressure, right? Of being able to handle the pressure when you just have to make a couple key saves to help your team win versus standing on your head. I thought Andy was just great on standing on it. Like he seemed like the more rubber he saw, the better he got. Like he just, that kind of goalie, like they thrive in those.
Again, I'll go back, and I'm going to old school machine here, and it's not even storytelling. Curtis Joseph was a great example in the history of the National Hockey League. I mean, he played so great in St. Louis when he's getting throttled. He played pretty well in Toronto. Same thing, getting throttled by Ottawa. He goes to Detroit all of a sudden. That is, to your point, a different mindset. When all of a sudden I'm cut from 40 shots to 20. Oh, Cujo just went crazy. The more he's in there and he's active in the net, and
mind starts thinking.
Yeah. But even as a goaltender, guys, you're watching the shot clock all the time. And if all of a sudden the shots are 40-20 and you're either tied or up by 1, your confidence level and how you're feeling about your game is just absolutely. I love playing in Windsor back in the day because they lied about the shots. No, I was always terrible when I played there, and they'd throw money at me and everything else. But I loved looking up every time the guy would touch the button for one shot was 5. I'd be like, oh man, I'm having a hell of a game here. Let's see if we can get that up to 60 shots tonight. Who cares if we lose 8-1? It's not my fault.
You brought up the confidence of Linus Ullmark.
Yeah.
Here he is this morning, just taking shots from Alfie quickly, just watch his last save.
My God.
Just flashes the leather. Like, yeah, I got it. I just like the way he conducts himself on the ice.
Where
just
would
showing
we
off
be
a little bit of Wally vision as well.
Where
And
would
the
we
last
be
two-
without Wally
Yeah.
vision? Hey, Simmer, where
Oh,
would we
that
be
is
without
right
Wally
there.
vision?
And there's
So
Alfie
good.
just ripping him on the fellow Swede. But again, I have not seen anything on. I'll say this so sincerely. I've never seen between Matt Murray and Korpisalo, 2 players in the National Hockey League, one that's won 2 cups, the other one's been around for a while, can't catch the puck. Like they can't catch the puck. Murray was a technical thing and probably mental. Korpisalo somehow would just move out of the way and get handcuffed by it. It's just refreshing to see, where he is. And then the other part with Ullmark, glad to see he's playing the full 60 tonight. Like to see him have one more full game. He's just going to get better and better. And he is very technically sound, a pretty complete goaltender. And yeah, that was some nice camera work there. I know you just wanted to show that bad boy off.
He was waiting to get that in. Hey, hold on a second. I got the shot.
No, wait.
Here on Ullmark here.
I got better vids. We can roll in the Artem Zub stuff because he looked great today.
Oh my God,
as he gets back into action.
Yes,
But
look at
Zuby
this,
he was flying today.
Zuby, hey, you're calling him Zuby now? You guys are tight.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're tight. Yeah, we talk all the time.
But you see, the little thing there, Simmer, you said about just goes back to my point there. When Matt Murray came to Ottawa, Korpisalo gets the big contract. It's like all of a sudden expectations are raised versus like Korpisalo, for example. He was the underdog in LA, underdog in Korpisalo. It's like, okay, we've given this guy all this money. Now you're supposed to come in here and help us win. And then it's that different kind of pressure, right? When you're expected to be a difference maker and expected to help the team win. I just think certain goaltenders can handle it and certain can't.
Yeah, and to that, Yorkie, when you look at Matt Murray's situation, and I'm very careful, he wasn't in the right place mentally, guys. And I also watched him, and it reminds me, I see other goaltenders. I had a real battle when I played with nervous energy, and I can just view a goaltender. Jack Campbell, unfortunately, same thing, guys. Maybe it's a Sault Ste. Marie thing. All these guys were all alumni, Robin Leonard. I just watch these fellas, and it's just like there's so much energy already gone before they even play. You don't have a chance. And a guy like Ullmark, it just seems to be cool and calm. He's super confident. He's excited about a fresh start. And it's a world of difference on how you're able to approach it. And your teammates can sense it too. You know what I mean? You don't need the goaltender in the bathroom throwing up before and sweating and don't talk to me, don't look at me. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
That you get into those modes where you appreciate, okay, it's a game day, but it's 10 a.m. We don't play till 7 p.m. Like, can we just relax a little bit here?
Do you remember
Marty
when we
Brodeur
remember
was
we
the
had
best.
Tugger on the show, Wally? Ron Tugnut, and then I still bug him about this every time I see him because he finally figured out when he was older, he was wasting all this energy going through this crazy routine of not talking to guys. We used to play a game, Wade Red and myself. When Tugger showed up to the rink, he had this crazy routine where he would ignore everybody and not talk to anybody. And we'd try and get him to talk and we'd ask him questions. And he's like, probably shouldn't have been doing it because he was a starting goaltender, but we were trying to, we couldn't rattle him before the game. But then he goes to Columbus, plays some pretty, he finally realized, you know what? I'm wasting time like with my teammates here, just standing like in mute and going through this crazy routine of mine. But
it's easier said than done. And you pointed out, Wally, like it would have been such a joy personally. And obviously I only played the American Hockey League, but if I could have ever had the approach that Marty Brodeur had, like that's the way. And Aaron Rodgers in football, guys that it's just like, are you kidding me? Looks like they're just going out for a walk in the park. And that just to me was amazing, even for Marty Brodeur. And I won't go deep into it, but the one year they won the cup, he was going through some pretty tough stuff personally that would throw most athletes a real, curve where they just come apart. He was just able to handle that. He'd go to the rink, he'd focus. Now, he was very well insulated, also playing the puck and everything else, but I totally agree with you, Wally. It's just a nice approach. It's the way you would hope you could play sports, but easier said than done, especially when it comes to goaltenders.
So Craig Anderson had talked all through the year about how he wanted to do a pre-game warm-up interview over the bench, we call them. And finally, they got it approved. I think it was his last start of the season. It's somewhere. I have a picture of it somewhere. They allowed him, and so he's starting the game, but he's now doing a pre-game interview during warm-up. I've never seen a goalie do it since or before. But yeah, that one was
why? Well, why not? Like why?
Well,
why
exactly.
Like
if Marty Brodeur, arguably one of the greatest goalies of all time, not arguably, but I was going to say one of the top two, perhaps. If he can sit for an hour and chat in a locker room at 10 a.m., I think most should be able to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to know what Patrick Waugh and Dominic Hasek were like, because to me that's the big three of my lifetime.
Oh, Patrick Waugh didn't even. Andy Moog played. I'm pretty sure. Andy Moog was a backup, if I'm not mistaken, to Patrick Waugh in Montreal. He did not like him at all. He was just really difficult to deal with all the time.
Moog said
Don't
that.
talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the opposite with Craig Billington, who I talked to Biller, but Biller knew exactly his role. He was just a good practice goaltender. He was there to fill in. He was no threat to Patrick. It was just basically, hey, can I pack your lunch for you? Can I help you take your gear off? Whatever it takes for me to be your buddy, and I can hang around here and play 20 games a year and make a pretty good paycheck.
Tugger said when he played at Montreal, the first day, he's, hey, Pat, they had met Patrick Waugh. He's like, hey, Patrick, how you doing? Ron Tugnet. He's like, okay, Ron, just so you know, these are all the games that I'm going to play, and these are the games you're going to play, just so we're clear on this. And Tugger's like, yes, Mr. Waugh.
It was Tugger, and not, there was more to Tugger. Didn't really like Patty. There was more. It wasn't. Andy
I don't know if he didn't
Moog,
like him. He just said he was told from day one how it was going to be.
Yeah,
but hey,
they didn't have many conversations.
No, and life's just easier, guys, at the rink. I mean, as a goaltending partner back in the day, pretty good chance you're rooming together. You don't need that. Like any relationship that's either personal or professional, why bother? Like, it doesn't have to be this head-to-head battle. You should be there to kind of support each other. And again, that's realistically where Ottawa's at right now. Forsberg should know his role. Ullmark, along with the goaltender coach, but Ullmark, more importantly, hey, here's the schedule for October. You think he can play all the games? Great. Should we give Forsberg a start? That's a possibility, but there's no doubt that he'll be in a spot, guys, where he's picking and choosing and saying, hey, I feel great right now. I'm on a roll. The curious part, as we've gotten away from the National Hockey League, Yorkie, would we see a situation where he plays any back-to-back games? That's something we almost never see, but I'm sure it's up to Ullmark at this point as to how much he wants to play.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But I was just thinking about something as we were talking about, star athletes and the goaltenders. How about your boy Brady on the weekend? I don't know if you guys caught his comments in the
on Baker Mayfield.
They were talking about Baker Mayfield, how he's come and he's brought joy and happiness, and Brady's like, I wanted to have some happiness. I'd take my kids to Disneyland. We're in the business of winning here. He said something like that. Just crushed poor Baker.
Yeah, and if a guy that you just start to cheer for a little bit in Baker Mayfield, this is only on my personal side, it's just so ridiculous when you think of the culture side that Brady brought. Now, I do want to circle back because we've gone story time, which anybody that knows me even from radio days, we go all around the world, Wally. Back to my good friend, Mr. Zub. Was he flying out there today? And then for a guy that had a lower body injury, only has a few days of practice, that was impressive to watch. So that'll be fun to see him back in the lineup. Oh, yeah, he's got the Rasputin feet going there.
He's doing the rah Rasputin. There he goes. Where's the quick feet, Wally? Where's the good clip with the quick feet?
I'm not sure.
All right. Anyways, he looked good out there. He's, you know what? He is, if you look at the way their defense is set up now, and we've talked about this before, you got two quiet, dependable righties that are just going to do their job on the right side and be nice little outlets for their two partners. And I'm talking about Zub and I'm talking about Jensen. And then I'm excited for this season to start. Let's get the exhibition season over with. And I'm really, really intrigued to see how these pairings play together and who Travis Green decides to play together. Zub and Sanderson had some nice chemistry. So do you put Jensen and Shabbat together? I'm pretty certain it's going to be Clevin and Hamonic to start the season, and they'll figure out who Zub and who Jensen plays with, but it doesn't matter who Sanderson, whoever Sanderson plays with, the partner's going to look great.
Do we care?
And you well, no, well, I do. Not a big thing, Wally, and because I don't even know yet. I don't have an answer for you. The thing I'll say though is that has also been the case with Zub. I mean, there's been a number of partners over the years that he's come here, and what a free agent find. You know, I remember when he got signed, you're kind of like, oh, another guy coming over. Certainly, we saw it with Panarin, but it's usually a high-end player. The guy has been incredible. Personally, I would start Zub with Sanderson because when we talk about trust and reliability, I like that. I'd like to see Jensen and Shabbat get some reps, and then Hamonic and Clevin. And I'll say that, and I use the term bullish, but I think Ottawa's defense guys, at least on paper now with Ullmark on the back end, is much better than people give it credit for. And like I said, just take an opportunity and go through some of the box scores. We get into the regular season, look at some of the other clubs. And I'll also make a note for tonight. I don't know if they're trying to bubble wrap their players at this point, but not exactly the greatest Montreal Canadiens lineup for a home game. I was a little shocked to see that this late, but they must just be after Reinbacher and Laine being out. They must just be terrified of losing any more players at this point, unfortunately.
Jeez, are they still Montreal is wants to take that guy and stone him at the cross that took out Laine. Oh my God. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe, like, come on.
Yorkie,
total accident.
But fan bases don't see it that way. Just like when Eric Greiba hit player 61, hit Lars
Eller.
That was a complete accident, but they had death threats against him. Like, that's just how it goes.
Well, I won't say that was an accident. All I'll say is that was a hell of a hit. That was just a bigger boy, and that was just a sucker pass. It was a Bouillon that fed it up the middle, and Lars Eller stepped up. Oh, Diaz. Okay. And the simple fact that it was Montreal, and I understand, and the simple fact there was blood on the ice, it just terrified everybody. But I just thought that hit right there that's not even old school. It was just a great hit. What's Greiba supposed to do in that spot?
Yeah, it was clean, but it's funny, you don't see that hit much in the NHL anymore because guys are afraid to give it because they're afraid to get suspended. So it used to be when you played, the guy that gave that pass would get so much shit from the bench for giving it. It's called a suicide pass. And it's, you were responsible. If you're in the NHL, you have to be good enough not to give that pass. And that's the problem. Just guys aren't as smart as they used to be. And now guys have had to adapt because they don't want to get suspended. But yeah, it was.
And you also have guys staying out of the middle a lot more. And you just think of, unfortunately, the way Eric Lindros grew up, where he could play the middle of the ice because he was bigger, stronger, faster. He didn't worry. He was thinking about backing people off. And then all of a sudden, he became the prey, when he went to the National Hockey League. And that inability coming through the neutral zone with your head down, you just don't see as many guys. And for even some of the guys, like look at a guy like Rick Nash when he was in his prime, he was going hard to the net. Then you get the big contract and you realize, you know what? That's not that fun doing that on a nightly basis. So I'm just going to keep to the outside here. And why don't you feed me a few one-timers on the power play so I can get some my cookies?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you done, Yorkie?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm just laughing. I love the term cookies.
Let's the Cookie Monster. We'll have to put the board back in. I will. Let's take care of some business, Yorkie.
Okay. Well, our show, once again, as always, brought to you by BEI, Bonisher Excavating. If you're looking to do some equipment rentals, aggregate or topsoil, they can help you with that. Custom crushing and screening as well. Also, if you want to spruce up that driveway of yours, they're great at paving. You could reach them at 613. I got to put my glasses on so I can see this. 432-1120 or at bonisherexcavating.com. BEI is helping to shape the Ottawa Valley, and please slow down in construction zones.
Yesterday, you said you memorized it. And also, this show proudly presented by Bet365, proud partner of Coming in Hot. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code DAILY365. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly, which takes us into today's Where Do You Put Your Money? So Tim Stutzla is at the over-under on points right now at Bet365 at 84.5.
Ooh, that's a nice line right there because it makes you think.
Now, most people think that Timmy's over 90. I'm just curious if you had $1 million, where are you
$1 million?
Well, he actually does. He does have the money. It's just a question whether he'd put it up for a bet. I'm just being honest. Now, if you want to go to me, would you use $10? Okay.
For Yorkie, it's nothing.
I know.
But for
Go ahead,
us, it's a
Yorkie.
lot of money. Yeah.
I know.
Listen, I never got the big contracts. What are you guys talking about? Come on. Am I first on this one?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think Tim Slutza is going to. I think he's going to thrive under Travis Green. I think he's going to push him to be better. My only reason why I'm hesitant is because I think Travis is going to be on him to be a little more underneath and be more defensively responsible.
Yes.
And it is really hard to be a point-a-game player in the NHL. And if you want to play winning hockey, you can't cheat all the time. If you want to be a cookie monster, you can cheat and you can get your cookies and you'll get lots of cookies, but you're not winning. So I originally thought yes. Now I think he's going to be just under. I think he's going to be like 82 points. So I'm going to take the under, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because he's going to play an all-around game because Travis Green is going to be on him to make defense first situation. Timmy already talked about it too. He says, yeah, coach is telling me defense or offense is going to come from good defense. And also too, here's the thing with Ottawa. They don't have a unit that stays on for 1 minute and 50 seconds like Edmonton. They're going to have two groups. So to be a pure cookie monster, you stay out for like 1:50 every peeper and you get those cookies. So he's not going to have that opportunity. So I'm going under.
Yeah, and I'll look at it, guys, and I'll take the over. And when you're making those points, Yorkie, here's another nice thing with the modern day athlete. These guys have all gotten paid. You know, it sounds great back in the day that Scotty Bowman went to Steve Yzerman, or, you know, I had players back in the day with Peter Bondra. Yeah, hey, nice try, coach. I'm in a contract year, or I want my contract renegotiated, or I've got a bunch of bonuses in my contract. This is a nice part. Timmy Stützle's got his money, you know, and not saying he doesn't want to be productive, but I still think in the National Hockey League, first of all, I think that power play, I'm not thrilled with the spot that he's in on that left side, but I think they'll be good enough. And we do see scoring up in the National Hockey League, and there are a lot more players that are point-a-game players. So I'll take just over Wally. But like I said, I there's no doubt he's going to have to play properly. So this could also see a time where maybe there's a little bit of tough love from Coach Green.
See, the issue is he looks really good. But I think the will for him to win, and I believe he's ultra competitive, is he will do whatever is told to get the W as opposed to the points. I think he's going to have to sacrifice some points, but he's a gifted offensive player. Like,
he looks so good right now. Wally.
I still think he is going.
Yeah,
so I'm going to take the over and still think he's going to play better defensively.
Yeah, and the other part that they have now, guys, and this isn't even take out DeBrincat, but when we look at that power play, which I assume is going to be the first unit, that doesn't include Giroux, doesn't include a guy like Perron, who's basically played there. Nice. Who's the NHL's cookie monster? There's a lot of them, actually. Maybe we'll go to the New York Rangers on the next discussion. But the part being is that you can actually discipline these guys now where, hey, all of a sudden you don't have to be on the power play. I'm going to give another option. I'm going to give Pinto a look on there for a one-timer. So that's a nice little safety net to have as a coach too. And just from a center ice standpoint, they could throw Ridley Gregg into the middle. You've got Pinto and Norris behind him. So it'll be easy to find the accountability. But as I said, I just think that scoring's up in the NHL. I think he's got enough around him now that I'll just go a little bit over, as I said, just a little bit over there. Over the top.
I think like I spent a little time with Mark Stone this summer and just asking him about Vegas and how they won. And he just says, like, our power play, like, we didn't have guys staying on for over a minute. First unit's not working, second unit goes out. You win. It just seems now in the NHL, you win by committee. Like, you watch Barkov play, he plays properly. He's not getting a ton of gifted power play points during the regular season. It's because, you know, there's other facets of the game where you got to put so much detail to. And the other thing too, guys, is you've heard them talk about during camp, right? We need to learn how to win 2-1 games, how to tight games. You know, we're not going to beat ourselves this year. Take what's given. Don't force the issue. So to me, I see Ottawa playing more low-scoring games. And you mentioned Claude Giroux, Simmer. If Claude Giroux wasn't on this team, I would say he has a better chance of getting over those points. But you got Claude Giroux on your second power play. He's not playing 25 seconds. So
yeah,
they need to. So it's just there's too many guys. Perron's a power play guy. Pinto's a power play guy. So, anyways, he could do it, but I think it's a really good thing if he's under.
Yeah, and the other, as I said, you mentioned Barkov, and I go back to the paydays. The one thing that I'm looking for the Ottawa Senators guys, there's no reason that they shouldn't have a good power play, Wally. There's no reason that they shouldn't have a strong penalty kill now. I think forwards, almost anybody can be on that. But when I look at the defensive pairings that are projected, any of the three could go out there and do that. And then you've got Ullmark. But the part for Stützle is that when you're surrounded by Tkachuk and you've got Giroux, and then all of a sudden you're out there with Sanderson and Zub or Jensen, whatever it ends up being, there's enough around him now where I'd like to see some games 5-on-5 where they just take over. And we saw that the other night again, but I won't get carried away on preseason in the lineup. But I think that they're right at that sweet spot right now, guys, where we should see some, not going to expect a Connor McDavid night, but I would expect there to be some games there where they're almost close to the old pizza line.
Okay. More things coming from Simmer to lock in, apparently. Which leads us to today's Simmer survey.
Absolutely.
Hear ye, hear ye. Can't not laugh at this.
I know, and I got to be honest. When we did tape that, the coat was a tad warm. It was the middle of the summertime in Spark Street, but that's okay. So here we are for the Simmer survey, and I think this is relevant, guys, for a few reasons. Just because it's fun to talk about, but with the Gong Show that's happening in Boston now, with a guy like Swayman, I'm asking people, hey, what kind of a term would you give to Ullmark on a new contract? 5, 6, 7, 8 years? And I'm going to go in and say, if I had to give 6 guys, I'd give it. But in a perfect world, based on his age, I'll go with number 1, 5 years. What say you, Yorkie?
Well, I'm looking right now at his birthday. He's 31 years old. Will be 32. Well, so 32 next year. So 5 years, it would be ideal, right? That would be perfect. It takes him to age 36. Still not that old for a goaltender, but yeah, I would, if you could get him 5, that would be great.
What about you, Wally?
But so it depends though, right? If the shorter the term, the more you're going to have to pay him. Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Good point.
The only thing I'll say about that, Wally, and I don't know, like the Shesterkin thing, you could kind of measure it because you are, again, talking about an Ullmark. You're talking about unrestricted free agent years. So that's different than Swayman's contract. But at least in the case of the Ottawa Senators, and I do take age as a factor, when I look at the AAV and I look at a contract like Saros, and there's been a couple of others that are signed, you know, they're all staying in and around or just under 8 million. I still think if you went to him and it's just a tad shy of 8 or in and around there on a 5-year deal, I still think if you look at what he's made in his career, which he hasn't had the big contract, I still think that would be pretty satisfying. The question is, how far does he want to push it? The Ottawa Senators, at the end of the day, if he comes and says, listen, I want 6 years, you don't have any choice. Like there's no, you know what? We're going to let you go to market next summer and then we'll figure it out. I mean, he's in a pretty good spot here. Should he start off and have a real good start to the season?
That's all I'm saying. If you're the agent, because it's the agent more than the player negotiating it, is you ask for the maximum. You ask for,
for sure,
all the term and all the money. That's where I just don't know if he can get him signed at 5 without having to, I'll say, pay through the nose.
And I always use the term on contracts, guys, is basically buying a house. And if you said to me, listen, it's 5 times 7.5 or 8, when all of a sudden the player says you want 6, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to go another, 7 million on a 6-year deal versus a 5-year deal? You don't have any choice. I mean, that's the position that the athlete's in now. Historically, I think Swedes are always very easy to deal with. Not easy, but good to deal with contract-wise. So we'll see how it plays out. But it'll be real interesting to see what happens with Shesterkin and what happens with Swayman. Because if both of these fellas end up going north of 10 million, that could change the mindset. And not that Ullmark, but just from a pride standpoint, right? Saying, okay, I appreciate I'm a little bit older. I'm maybe not quite to the level of those fellas, but I'll tell you what, I should be a lot closer as far as the actual annual value of the contract.
46% say 5 years, 41% of our fans polled say 41% say 6 years. So,
where'd
we'll
you go? Were you 6?
I don't know what yeah, I guess so. I would like to see him at 5 based on, but I don't know what that number is.
Yeah. Like I said, there's Saros, and I'm blanking on the 2 other goaltenders, guys, that have signed contract extensions. Saros was a little under 8 million, I believe, and there were 2 others that are comparables to it that I think are kind of the market. But as I said, the way the Swayman thing. Wally, I saw the chart of it the other day, but the one that stood out was Saros because it looked like pretty good value. Then they turned around and traded Askarov, but I'm just so intrigued, guys, what's going to happen with Swayman, how this plays out ultimately in Boston.
It's so crazy.
Could you imagine a scenario, which I don't, imagine a scenario that he ends up getting traded, that you've traded the best tandem in the National Hockey League? I don't see that happening, but I also don't see the Boston Bruins suddenly caving.
Yeah. To your point of going longer and then bringing the contract down as the years go on, like pay him up front, like pay him early, and then the contract slowly comes down. So later on in the career, when he's older, like maybe you do go longer and, you start him off, whatever, making like 8, and you go down to 6, you go down to 5. And then by those last couple of years, you're paying him a lot less when he's an older player. See something like that work too. It makes it,
as long as you got to have the cap room, though. He's still going to average out at 8 to 10 million or whatever.
No, but I'm just saying it makes it a lot easier when the player is later on in the career to move them. So you're not. To me, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I totally agree that is a way, and it didn't work, but in some ways that's, I think, the way they structured Korpisalo's contract was, hey, maybe give a little bit more term, have a little bit less money. The issue for Ullmark, guys, and again, this is a guy that's in the driver's seat. You may have a sliding contract, you're still going to have a cap hit, but I'd be pretty shocked if this guy doesn't get a full no movement clause. I just think for where he's at and his family wise, way I think he wants to have total control. I don't need anything like Boston situation where all of a sudden getting a phone call and I got to uproot the family. So I structure the contract and have it sliding, but there's going to be a full no move in that deal.
100%. Every Swede I've played with is big family guys. I know he's a family guy. You settle in. The last thing you want to do is, especially when you have leverage, you got leverage right now where you can say, hey, no move. I'm going to decide what happens. And why wouldn't you? That's, you've come to that point, right?
Yeah. And that's why when Doughty did his own contract, that's why all the agents were applauding that. I believe after year 4 of the contract, he doesn't have any control about where he's going to go. And so when you have that leverage, Wally, and I think they'll be more than happy to do it. Yeah. You just at the end of the day want to get the deal done.
Yeah. We'll see if it does get done. By the way, our other poll that was a rogue poll, Simmer, I apologize. 54% of the people said Carter Yakimchuk should be on the blue line.
Well, like I said, I'm surprised it's not 94. Like I've got to, and again, I don't get into being too much of a cheerleader. I've tried to approach training camp this year of keeping an open mind. But the Hamonic thing, you almost can't touch it. Like there's people that think he should not play ice hockey. Like forget about being the 6th defenseman for the Ottawa Senators. Yeah. There's enough of the fan base. And then on JBD, hey, there hasn't been. And it's a new toy. But I say this term, Yorkie, let's use some common sense. Like we went through the whole list of why this makes no sense that he's going to play for the Ottawa Senators this year. That's what you use in this case, is just basically the process of elimination.
It's common sense, Wally, for God's sake. I thought you were a common sense type of guy. Practical.
You know what? It's good just to wind you up a little.
I'm not wound up. You were the one wound up. You're like, what's going on with Norris? I got Norris. When's this guy gonna play? My God, come on.
Why isn't Halliday on the first power play?
Stop. Stop.
And just before they go on the first unit, you play the Madonna song. Hey, that's the way you tee up the power play.
We gotta get one of our great listeners has to come up with a video for Halliday with Wally doing a little dancing in that video.
Well, like a Donald Trump, put him on Wally's head on Donald Trump doing the dances. So that's a job. That's a job for Eric to get on. He's already got the face, so yeah, get her going.
No, Wally doesn't. Eric doesn't need any more encouragement. TJ, do we have it?
What?
Oh, maybe we don't have it.
The holiday song?
Oh, here. This is for you, Yorkie.
Where's the music? There's no music.
Hey,
we're not allowed to play it?
We can't afford the music copyright for this. Okay? There's your Madonna holiday video.
Oh, no. Are we talking? We're talking big. Are we talking big '80s Madonna right there?
That's '80s Madonna right there. She's the best Madonna. She's gone crazy now. Went to one of her shows. Simmer. She
don't start him on
had
this.
to wait 2 hours for her to cut 2.5 hours for to get on stage.
I saw her perform in DC. She was just absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, the route she's gone with some of the augmentations does not appear to be working quite properly at this point. It's actually kind of been a little bit on the sad side.
I was so sour. We were sitting at the Harbor 64 in downtown Toronto having wine. It was a birthday party, and you know what happens before you go to a concert, right? The wives and the girlfriends all get antsy. We're gonna miss a concert. We're gonna miss a concert. We gotta go. And I'm like, she's going to come on late. I'm telling you. We rushed out of there. We got there and we sat in our seats for almost 3 hours waiting for Madonna to get on stage.
I would probably choose that route because the Harbor 66 is also where you just take your wallet and they stick a vacuum cleaner in it. So I would probably limit my time at that place. We ended up having
the cash right out of it.
We had a team meal there in Toronto, and it's on the house, and MLSE has lots of money. But even at that, I was kind of like, oh my,
it's crazy.
God.
It's crazy. They pillage you in there. Like they got you've been in the Harbor 60, eh? You got the big high back chairs.
No.
But it's crazy. You only go there for special occasions. Like you pay a price going in there. It is a vacuum. Just sucks all the cash right out of your wallet.
You've never invited me. I'm just curious before we go here. How soon do we press this?
For what? What are we pressing it for?
What if they don't start? What if they lose tonight? Are people going to hit the panic button? What if it's a bad start to the year?
How do they say it in Europe? It's not controversy. It's another, the way it rolls off is a great saying. Controversy or something like that. Wally trying to stir it up just before the show. I'm not feeling much of that for tonight. If we'll roll that bad boy in when the season starts. But I'm saying for the regular season, 10 games in, if they're under 500, 10 games in, then I think you're just wailing on that bad boy, probably taking a hammer at that point and just giving her. So that's the way I would say it. I don't feel the rest of the preseason, there's so much love going on for the Zoobster being back in. Hey.
What is that? It sounds like a cat that's being tortured.
It's a panic button.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
They're eating the cats.
That's a panic button for your cat.
Okay. I'm in there's a ton of cats in my neighborhood. I don't like, this must be a coyote-free neighborhood down here. Because in Canada, if you leave your cat out overnight, she's going down. Like the coyotes are going to get it.
Your neighborhood is full of cougars. There's no coyotes.
Finally, before we go, we have reached over $2,000 in donations for our tickets for the food draw for the draw for the 100 level tickets on opening night. Just donate to the food bank. All the information on the screen. Just send your email receipt into cominginhotsends@gmail.com. Okay. We'll watch the game tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to report on it.
Oh, yeah, excited to watch, guys. Yeah, it's always fun to watch games in Montreal, and there's enough new, fresh faces. And hey, just fingers crossed for Josh Norris. Just hope he has a fun game. Be great to see him on the power play again, and hey, just onward and upward.
You gonna get that Twitter machine going tonight, Simmer? Some live tweeting during the game?
Yeah, well, I'm competing with Wally Vision now, so I got to up my game in game. Hey, gotta bring some content there. Now I'm gonna have to also go work it on. He's hijacked my poll system, so I'm gonna have to rethink the whole structure of that bad boy. Hey,
I'm not bringing out. I'm not bringing out Yorkie vids till the regular season. Like,
I
it's
know
way
we need
too,
Yorkie vids back.
Way too early. Way too early.
Yeah. Well, how about? Well, I don't. You're not.
You want me to do? You want me to do one? You want me to do one tonight? I'll see if something sticks. Something sticks out. Maybe I'll do something on Yakimchuk.
Oh,
yeah,
he's
that'd
going to be there opening night. Okay, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching, everybody. 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Enjoy.
Cheers, Ottawa.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.